We couldn't be.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, great.
Yes.
So we're missing Joe Davis.
Yeah, Chris Davis needs to be added to the meeting.
I think I'm here.
Here's Joe.
Yeah, I can't see Chris.
I don't see Chris in the list. I see Constable Toller. I don't know if,
No, there's a Chris Davis here, but his video is not showing.
He was the one that you had to change the login for when we did the trial run.
yeah,
Because he used a different email.
he has been added. He's just not sending any video right now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Greg Elkins, is he going to be here?
I'm sure he is. I don't know where. Is he having trouble?
And can you see the list of attendees? And if you can you tell me if any of those need to be added?
There he is.
Greg's on there.
In the
Okay.
attendees list, is that Greg? Is that what you're saying?
He
Correct.
just popped up.
He's on there now.
Let's see. No?
I think this is everybody, isn't it?
Yep.
He hasn't said he's on it. Who's Joe?
Where's Joe?
I'm here.
Joe's there.
Okay, there's Joe. And I don't see Elkins on there.
Well, they'll, yeah,
Do the full screen view, Michelle.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. I'd like to start with a historical prayer. These words are borrowed from President George W. Bush's Easter message of 2005. God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. Through sacrifice and triumph over death, you've lifted the sights of humanity forever. The poor have hope. The proud have been challenged. The weak and dying have found assurance. Today, your words continue to comfort and strengthen all around the world. During this holy season, we are thankful for your blessings and ask your wisdom and guidance. We keep in our thoughts and prayers the men and women of our armed forces, especially those far from home, separated from family and friends by the call of duty. May the joy of Easter fill our hearts with gratitude for our freedom, love for our neighbors, and hope for peace. Amen. You see the flag behind me, we'll do the pledge. Pledge allegiance to
To the flag
of the
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands,
One nation.
nation,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
liberty and justice.
I'll call the meeting to order and ask the clerk to read the roll.
Mashers Blanton,
Present.
Constantopoulos,
here.
Graham,
Present.
Thompson,
Here.
Davis,
Present.
and Elkins.
present.
We have a quorum. Item number 5, adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
There's a
Second.
second? Discussion?
Who's the second?
Who seconded?
Yeah, who was second?
I
think it
was.
Chris Day. Oh, maybe it was Daniel Constantopoulos.
Okay. Just a minute.
All those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, consider approval of the minutes from the March 26, 2020 fiscal court meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor respond by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7, consider approval of the transfers. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Magistrate Graham.
Thank you.
Discussion?
I have just a bit.
Sure.
On the second page on that rainy day fund transfer, is that really the appropriate place to take that $55,000 from? I question whether that's the proper use of that rainy day fund.
Well, upon discussing with the treasurer, there was no more money left in the treasurer line items due to the comp time payout for the former treasurer. Therefore, the only real options were contingency fund and the rainy day fund. If you all would like to choose the contingency fund instead, you're welcome to do so, but I think they're both pretty analogous.
I would rather do the contingency fund myself.
Is that a motion? Motion to amend? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Is there a particular region for the contingency fund, Magistrate Blanton?
Well, I think the rainy day fund is for for a totally different type of transfer or use. The rainy day fund was for those, and we had this discussion when we last met on funding the another one a couple of weeks ago, and I guess it was for the Parks Department, and I thought that was a rainy day fund outlay, and it wasn't, but this certainly isn't a rainy day fund outlay, I wouldn't think.
Hold on 1 second. I'm just looking real quick at the financial report.
It's already in the budget. And there is another line item, which I didn't get this till late last night, so I didn't get a chance to completely go through it. But I noticed under the planning and zoning line item, it was a $28,000 total. And I think that is much less, more like $7,000 a year as opposed to 28. I think, and I didn't have a chance to get my last year's final budget out to see, but I think that it's more like 7,000 as opposed to 28,000. It's typically allocated to the planning commission. I don't know where the $28,000 number came from, but that's a sizable chunk of change in there that if we could get that verified, I think that's an error in the budget as well.
We can certainly take a look at it.
Yeah, because they're showing well, this is as of February or as of March 1st here, we got 265,000 in contingent appropriations in there that we can use.
That would be my preference.
Any further discussion?
One other,
Judge, I would like to propose that we on the second page as well, not take the money that needs transferred for the jail fund out of the contingent appropriations, but I would propose that we take it out of commissary employees. They are on pace to spend $92,000 this year. They've spent $69,000 in the commissary line item. They're on pace to spend $92,000, which they're budgeted for $131,000. That leaves quite a bit of money in that commissary employees line item where we can take that money from if that's acceptable.
Okay, Magistrate Elkins. Magistrate Elkins, we're gonna do the amendments one at a time. Unless Robert is willing to make that part of his amendment, we'll vote on his amendment first. Okay.
Let's just do them separate, please, Judge.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
Further discussion on Robert's amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of changing to contingent appropriations from rainy day fund, respond by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. And we're still discussing the approval of the transfer list, and my understanding is Magistrate Elkins also would like to make an amendment.
Yes, Judge, as I said, I would like to amend the transfer from 039200-999 to change that to transfer from the commissary employees, which is 03-5101-103A.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries.
Who is my no there?
Thompson.
Travis.
Okay.
Okay, now we will address the transfers as a whole, as amended, if there are no further amendments to be made. So we have our original motion and second on record, correct, Michelle?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So all those in favor of the transfers as amended, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, consider approval of the bills list. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Magistrate Constantopoulos, seconded by Magistrate Graham. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, number 9, consider approval of the second reading of an ordinance relating to the Clark County Constable Association authorizing the use of emergency equipment. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept
I'll
that.
second.
Motion made by Magistrate Graham, seconded by Magistrate Elkins. Discussion?
Judge, I have
I would say one thing. I've had some concern in the community expressed that we've increased the liability of the county with this ordinance. And I would like to say, I would like to make it clear that that is not the case. We've assumed no additional liabilities. We've granted no additional powers. We've granted no additional authority to the constables. We've only allowed them the use of emergency equipment. So I will be supporting this motion.
Magistrate Thompson?
Judge, just a couple of points. Just number one, I want the constables to understand why my vote is the way it is, as well as the public. First, immediately after the last meeting, I requested some information from the constables, which I never received. So I guess they did not think that it necessary for me to help make my decision up on this. And respectfully, I'm going to disagree with Magistrate Elkins. We are absolutely giving them additional authority. There's only two things that they can do with the emergency equipment that they're requesting, and that is to make traffic stops, which is a temporary detention of an individual freedom to drive down the road. And that is absolutely granting them authority. And furthermore, to run emergency lights and sirens and disregard traffic control devices. Those two things, as a 9-year veteran of the police force, I can tell you are two of the most dangerous things that we do. And without adequate and proper training, it's not something that I'm comfortable granting that permission. Someone at some point many years ago felt the need for that to be granted by the fiscal court. And in my opinion, if we grant that permission and they do something with that emergency equipment that is improper, then we are absolutely liable because we caused that. That's my 2 cents on it. That's all I got to say.
Judge.
Sure. Go ahead.
Just a couple things I want to say is just to kind of reiterate what Magistrate Elkins said is that most of the power or all the powers that the constables have are given through the state and through the Constitution. Simply what we are doing is, and I commend the constables, we're working on putting more restrictions than what the state Constitution actually provides for. And with that, I mean, we received, this is what we're adopting. It's 140 some pages of standing operating procedures for the constables on how they handle every situation, which will be governed by oversight by the board of directors, which will be 3 magistrates, which then falls to the fiscal court to oversee and to make sure they're in compliance with. It also requires them to have multiple hours of accredited training to be able to operate these emergency equipment. But it's not only just for their protection, it's for the public's protection. But one thing I want to say is it clearly says in this standing operating procedures manual that we are approving that they will not be able to disregard traffic signals. They will not be answering phone or calls from dispatch. They will only be able to use this in, motorist assist, traffic control, that type of thing. They will not be running lights and sirens down the interstate, disregarding traffic laws and so forth. So I think it clearly says that in this, along with a lot of other stipulations and procedures that they must follow and will be held accountable to by not only the board of directors, which consists of 3 members of us, but also the fiscal court as a whole. So with that, I think we're doing a great thing here because we're actually putting these policies and procedures in place which do not exist, which helps protect the public and also protect the fiscal court as well. That's all I've got to say, Judge.
Judge,
Comments from me, Judge, and I'm ready when you're ready.
Go ahead, Magistrate Blanton.
I'm of the opinion that this does extend and expose us to additional liability for various reasons. I haven't had a lot of discussion with folks in the community the last 2 weeks, but those I did talk to were concerned of the necessity to have lights and sirens on the constable's car when their primary duty is delivering papers for the county attorney's office. Not having any further justification of what I've seen so far, I will not be supporting this legislation.
I wanted to add something, Judge, if I could.
Okay. Go ahead, Magistrate Davis.
Thanks. Somebody had a phone ringing there. I wanted to point out a couple of things. I know there's some conversation in the public about this and some misunderstanding, I think, on some people's part, and maybe even a little misinformation. But first of all, I wanted to make clear that this doesn't obligate the county, and as far as I'm concerned, we don't have any intention of buying the blue lights for any constable. There was some folks that seem to have that idea in the public. We don't buy any of their equipment. All of these gentlemen that have bought vehicles, equipment, uniforms, whatever the case, they've done it out of their own pockets. And as far as I'm concerned, the lights will be purchased out of their own pocket too. So I want to clarify that. The other thing I want to clarify is there's a lot of talk about what constables do, don't do, can do. I want people, particularly watching this or following the issue, understand there's only 4 constitutional offices that have arrest powers. And one of them is the constable. So these people already have, upon their election and taking office, the ability to place anybody under arrest and take them to a jail. So, the issue of lights, I wasn't a year and a half ago, if you'd asked me about this, I probably wouldn't have been in favor of granting constables the rights. But it's only what I articulated in our last meeting, the end of March, that swayed me otherwise. 2 things is, first of all, the commitment of all the constables here in Clark County to form an association, undergo minimum of 40 hours of training each year to be in good standing with their association. And also the work that they've done in the community. I mean, these are not guys that are out chasing people and pulling their sidearm on suspects or shooting up the town. So I've gotten to know just about all these gentlemen, at least the ones that are involved in their association. And I find them all to be very responsible. They take this with the utmost seriousness. One of the reasons that some of them articulated to me for having lights is, if they assist a motorist who's broken down on the side of the road or been in a collision, that it's helpful to be able to have the lights from a safety standpoint if they pull over to give that person assistance or to assist another officer and being able to have those lights on. So I want everybody to know that again, that's following this issue, that in those standard operating procedures, again, almost 130 or 40 pages long, that they are not, first of all, they're not given permission to go engage in a high-speed chase. I think the exception may be is if the highest duty officer on call, either the sheriff or the chief, I think can make that request. Otherwise, they're not permitted to do so. Second of all, if you look at the ordinance, which is what everybody's going to be subject to if it passes, the fiscal court has the ability to remove a constable from membership. I mean, ultimately, the ability is still going to reside in the court. There is an oversight board, which I think is helpful in this association. It's going to help make this be a model for other counties. But if you were hypothetically to have a constable that didn't adhere to that, then it could be addressed. But again, until that constable leaves office, he has arrest powers. He could pull over somebody today. He could conceivably pull somebody over and detain them without lights, given the fact that he has the powers of arrest under the state constitution. So if anything, it could make some situations safer if the constable does intend to use those lights to pull somebody over or to make an arrest, whatever the situation may dictate. Again, I probably wouldn't have been in favor of this 2 years ago, but between what these individual constables have done and I think how this ordinance and the SOP governs their conduct, I'm confident that this will work. And as I said, I think it could be a model for other counties. So I continue to support it. Appreciate what they've already contributed to the community, which has been quite a bit in the last 14, 15 months since they took office.
County Attorney Elkins, since we've got you on the line, there's been some back and forth concerning the document and whether or not it empowers high-speed pursuit and the running of lights. Can you clarify that for us since you've reviewed the document?
Well, I'm going to hit it with a pretty broad brush. Essentially, the idea that you would ever be standing in the courthouse or in your neighborhood and see a constable's vehicle go flashing by, lights and sirens out of control, and feeling like that maybe is the most dangerous vehicle maneuver I've ever seen. This ordinance and the SOP all prohibit that kind of conduct. Essentially, it allows, from my personal view, with 11 years of law enforcement experience and a degree in police administration, and a legal degree in 32 years in this arena, a very safe approach to the use of emergency equipment to do what they otherwise have the ability to do. They could engage in a pursuit today. They just can't use blue lights to do it. They could engage in a detention today. They just couldn't use blue lights to do it. They could get out with somebody injured on the side of the road. They just can't use blue lights to do it. So essentially, we're not in the ordinance nor the SP enables them to do anything. It just enables them to do what they can already do more safely.
Magistrate Thompson, did you have something you wanted to say?
Just a couple things. The two items that seem to be what we're using for the necessity for these emergency equipment is motorist assist and traffic control. Those can both easily be accomplished with a set of yellow lights, just like a wrecker service or safety patrol on the interstate. They don't need blue lights to do that. So I would just point that out.
I will say that I contacted CAECO and I spoke with their counsel in regards to this issue. They informed me that as constitutional officers, our insurance already covers the constables. I asked if there would be any change in our insurance rates by allowing for blue lights. They said no. And the way they presented it to me, this is from the insurance company that we pay bills to insurance. We're taking on no additional liability in their opinion. This last weekend, when we were trying to help the retail stores out with the COVID-19 restrictions, there have been some changes because of this. Mayor Bertner suggested that we use the constables. I think Winchester PD helped out a little bit. I think the constables worked, and I think maybe the sheriff's department did as well. But I think that was a good example where actually the city kind of came in and asked us to help out with the constables, and I think they were able to do so. So these folks can come in handy from time to time. To me, it seems most of the discussion is regarding, whether or not constables ought to be allowed to arrest people, whether or not constables ought to be allowed to act as police officers, whether they ought to be allowed to carry a firearm or maybe have a badge. Fact of the matter is, that's an issue you need to take up with your state representative if you've got a problem with it. I know that they're empowered by the state constitution to have those rights as peace officers, and there have been bills as recently as last year where some members of the legislature looked to adjust those rights, and those bills failed. So obviously, the Kentucky legislature continues to want constables to be empowered as police. And until the legislature changes that, they're going to continue to have those powers. So the question I think we're asking is whether or not someone who is given powers by the state to act as an officer, whether it's safer to have them use lights to do it or not. It seems to me it's a pretty narrow question. Any further discussion?
Judge, I would, because it's very important. I know there's a lot of bad information out there that we're granting additional authorities and additional powers. So I'm going to read from the ordinance itself. The ordinance itself says, whereas KRS, Kentucky Revised Statute 189.950, permits the use of emergency equipment as provided for therein, and the authority proposed herein is wholly dependent upon complete compliance with such statute, meaning they have to comply with that statute while they're using their emergency equipment. It also says, it further says, Section 1, that the Clark County Constables Association members formerly accepted with certified training, formal adoption of the Constable Law Enforcement Operations Manual. Now I have that manual in front of me. It's 147 pages, I think. I've read them all. I know what it says in there. It very clearly lays out what they can do. Furthermore, it says the Clark County Constables Association bylaws, the Clark County Constable Association Code of Ethics, and the Clark County Constable Association mission statement shall be authorized to use emergency equipment on official vehicles, but only in compliance with KRS 189.950. That clearly tells me we're not granting them additional authority, but yet we're holding them to comply with that ordinance, with that Kentucky Revised Statute with our ordinance. So I have nothing further, Judge.
Judge, one clarification.
Sure.
189.950 specifically says any constable may, upon approval of the fiscal court in the county of jurisdiction, equip vehicles used by said officer as emergency vehicles with one or more flashing, rotating, or oscillating blue lights visible under normal atmospheric condition from a distance of 500 feet to the front of such a vehicle, and a siren, whistle, or bell capable of emitting a sound audible under normal conditions from a distance of not less than 500 feet. So what that statute says is they cannot use it without our express authority.
Correct.
Yeah, I think everyone agrees that we have to allow them to have blue lights. The question is, in my opinion at least, whether or not it's safer for them to perform their duties with lights or to run around, doing these things without lights. And it seems to me it may be safer to have lights, but.
Judge, I'm not sure if the word is safe or if the word is necessary. In my opinion, the word is necessary as opposed to safer.
Fair enough. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's have a roll call vote. All those in favor respond by saying aye.
Please say roll call.
Go ahead,
Masher
Michelle.
Blanton? Masher Blanton,
Nay.
Constantopoulos,
Yes.
Graham,
Aye.
Thompson,
No.
Davis,
Yes.
Elkins,
Aye.
Judge,
Aye.
5-2, motion carries.
Next on our agenda, item number 10, consider approval of an order to set the salary of a newly appointed finance director.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Can I change I do want to make one change. On the order, it says finance officer. That's correct. On the agenda, it says finance director. So I would like all the documentation to reflect finance officer. But with that one friendly amendment, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 11, magistrate comments. Before we go into magistrate comments, County Attorney Elkins, are you
Yes.
there?
Yes, sir.
Since this is styled a special video conference meeting, is it appropriate to have magistrate comments or not?
I think this was a regularly scheduled meeting, where the floor would have been open, but for the notice provided, it's a special meeting, albeit a video teleconference meeting. So I don't think magistrate comments would be appropriate.
Okay. We're going to remove magistrate comments from the agenda based on the advice of the county attorney. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
One second, Judge. Is it appropriate that we add a notation in the minutes, County Attorney Elkins?
Oh, I think he's referring to the presentment of the jail budget. Do we need to note that in the minutes at this meeting? Or can we do that at a later meeting?
I think I would do that at my next regularly scheduled meeting or my next special meeting where I included it on the agenda.
Okay, we can do that. That being said, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries, meeting adjourned. I've got 10:03 PM, Michelle.
Have a good day.
Thank you.